Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Oh, yeah. Live around the world on the interwebs at MichaelDukesShow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Good morning, my friends, my pretties, and your little dogs, too. Or your big dogs, too, or your cats. Oh, really? I don't like cats. So maybe not your cats. But hello to everybody else. Good morning, and welcome to the program. It is the Thursday edition of the Michael Dukes Show, and here we are. Here we are, all the way to Thursday already. Oh, man. How did we do it? All right. So what do we got here for today? It's you and me in hour one today. I got a couple stories that I want to talk about and a couple of things that are going on out there that I got questions on. And then in hour two, we're going to be talking with former State House Rep David Nelson, who is now running for election in his former seat that he was running in before. It's been reapportioned. It's been rejiggered. The lines have been rejiggered since the last time. And so we'll see what he has to say about stuff and things, man. That's what we're going to talk about. So anyway, that's coming up here in hour two. Tomorrow on the program, we will be talking with Dr. John Lott. Dr. John Lott will be joining us tomorrow, halfway through the first hour, and we'll be talking with him for about a half hour or so. He's got to be a busy man tomorrow, and he wants to talk a little bit about the track record of presidential candidate Kamala Harris, and what does that mean for us? Newsflash and sneak peek, it's not good. All right. I mean, that's just kind of the whole thing. It's not good. If you thought Joe Biden was bad news for gun owners, Kamala is just as bad, if not worse. And he's got a couple opinion pieces that came out this week talking about just that, the stats and the facts and the history of that, the history. All right. So what else is going on? I guess that's it for today. That's it. It's just you and me. Oh, I forgot. Phone lines are open here in hour one. So if you want to sound off, baby, you know what to do. All you do is pick up the phone and dial 319-527-3864. 319-527-3864 is where you go to get all that done. And feel free to make all that happen if you would. We'll take those calls and talk about if there's something that if you've got a burning itching sensation, call a doctor. If you've got a burning desire to talk about something else, feel free to give us a call. I don't know why I felt compelled to say that, but I don't know. It's a Thursday, man. And I've been up for more time than I woke up before my alarm went off this morning. I don't know why. So I've been sitting here for 2 hours, just looking at the screen and reading the news stories and getting agitated about stuff. Just don't know what to say. So anyway, feel free to do that. Final thing, I guess, final thought before I dive into all this hatred, discontent, and confusion. Did you hear that? My stomach just went. The final thought is, of course, don't forget you can always help us support the show by becoming a member of what we lovingly call the Common Sense Corps. That's right, Corps, C-O-R-P-S, Corpse. The Common Sense Corps, where you can become a member and help support the show by simply going over to patreon.com/Michael Duke Show, or just go to michaeldukeshow.com. And there's a big thing on the top that says join the Corps. And for as little as $3 a month, you can help support the show. You could put coffee in my coffee cup. You could put shoes on my kids' feet. Please help put shoes on my children's feet. My youngest turns 18 next week. 19, 2005, 19, turns 19 next week. I can keep track of all this. Don't worry about it. Anyway, so Common Sense Corps, you get access to our private Facebook page. There's all kinds of stuff in there. And I should do more with that. And I just haven't because I'm only one man. I'm the size of two, but I'm really only one man. All right, let's stop with the nonsense here and just move on. Shall we move along? Move along. Okay, so what do we want to talk about? Well, today is August the 1st, and the jungle primary starts on Monday. Monday is the early voting for the jungle primary. And again, just in case you guys are all wondering what the hell's going on, the ranked choice voting thing made it so that the primaries are not ranked choice. They're one and done. They're single votes, one and done. You only get to choose one, and then it moves on from there. And for most races, as we've talked about on this program for the last, I don't know, what has it been, 2 months now? For most races in the state, it means nothing. It's an opinion poll. It's a straw poll on how we think people are going to do, which is really kind of dangerous because that also means that, it means that there could be an outsized impact on races like the congressional race, because people are just not going to bother to show up to vote the primary because now hopefully people don't know enough yet. They're not familiar enough yet with the one and done primary, that with the ranked choice thing, that they're not, that hopefully they haven't got jaded enough to be like, it doesn't matter. They'll all show up on the hopefully most people don't understand the process enough yet. I'm fingers crossing it here. Because again, we want a good voter turnout for the primary. Why? Because there are, again, 3 races, and I really care about the one race. I mean, I care about them all, don't get me wrong, but I really care about the one race, which is the congressional race. It's a pick one primary, folks. The top 4 vote getters then move on to the general, and that's where all the ranking happens. The magic, the ranking magic, where you get to vote 4 or 5 times for all the different. Anyway, the 3 races are, of course, the congressional race for the seat currently held by Mary Peltola. Senate District L, which is the seat in Eagle River, currently held by Kelly Merrick. And House District 36, which is that big House seat in the interior, which was being held by Mike Kronk. But since he decided to jump over into the Senate race, there are now 6 candidates in that race as well. Now, it's interesting to see that, as we were talking about the other day, while ranked choice voting works perfectly well on paper, as soon as you add the human factor, And by that, I mean the psychology, the psychological, and the philosophical effect of what people believe and how they are. That kind of changes the whole dynamic, because in a perfect vacuum, ranked choice sounds like a great idea. The problem is that it is weighted and biased, not intentionally, but just the way that it comes out, against people who are more independent minded people, who are rugged individualists, who don't play well with others, who just do not want to be groped and grouped and consolidated and kumbaya'd into some kind of communal space. They are leaders. They are movers and shakers. They're people who want to blaze their own path, right? I mean, this is kind of who we are for the most part. People who are on that more conservative side, the more independent, the more leave me alone and I'll leave you alone set, they have a tendency not to, again, kind of do that whole communal thing. Whereas people on the left, now, not all, I'm talking about, again, in broad brush strokes. Don't everybody go, I can point to one candidate that's not that way. I'm talking about in broad strokes. People who are more progressive are definitely more kind of kumbaya. It takes a village, a esprit de corps. I'm part of the group think. I'd like to give the world a Coke and teach them to sing in perfect harmony kind of people, right? I mean, that's who they are. And they do this a lot because you've seen it where, generally speaking, in most races, historically and hysterically, you only see usually one candidate from in this case, the Democratic Party. The main progressive group in the state of Alaska is the Democratic Party. It's very rare that you see multiple candidates from that party on the same ticket, on the same ballot, for the same office. It is unusual for that to happen. And so for that reason alone, that's one of the reasons why ranked choice is not working as intended, or I guess I should say working as advertised, right? So I guess what I'm saying, the reason I'm going into all this is because it's very important that we, as rugged individualists, and I am not trying to tell you what to do, because again, God knows I know how well that will work, right? Because you guys are all rugged individualists and you can't tell me what to do. I'm not telling you what to do. All right. I just want to make that perfectly clear up front. I will tell you that I would suggest that we work really hard in getting ourselves, our families, our coworkers, and our sphere of influence out there to vote in the primary, especially those of you who live in the Eagle River District Senate District L, and those of you who are in the interior, where you have 6 candidates, 4 Republicans, 1 Democrat, and 1 Libertarian, who are running for the race up there. And I would encourage you to take a page out of Nick Begich's book. If you are listening right now and you're one of the 4 Republicans in either one of these legislative races, like in the Eagle River, there's 4 Republicans and 1 Democrat in those races. Now, Kelly Merrick is one of the 4 Republicans. I don't know if you can hear the air quotes from here, but she's one of them. But I would suggest that if any one of you are in those races and are listening, or have people in your campaign listening, I would encourage you to encourage your candidate that if they don't win in the primary, that they back out. Because otherwise, you're almost guaranteeing a win for the one and done person who's left over, especially since in both of those races, there's only 1 Democrat. There's only 1 Democrat in each one of those races. And the Democrat for Senate District L is Savannah Fletcher, who I am learning more and more about and really starting to get concerned. Now, we're going to have Savannah Fletcher on the program here probably sometime next week. I just got an email back from her candidate, or her campaign people, saying that she wanted to participate. And that should be an interesting conversation. But the whole point of me going on this whole diatribe about rugged individualism and blah, 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 is that we need to get out there and we need to have our voice be heard in the primary. Even if it doesn't matter in your district, and like my district, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all for any. The only thing it matters for me is the congressional race. But by God, go out there and vote your conscience. Because I want Nick Begich, personally, my personal opinion, I want Nick Begich to make it to the general. And if he doesn't get enough votes, he's pulling out, folks. He's pulling out. If he does not get enough votes in the primary, and the business as usual club, the Republicans and the powers that be at the National Republican Committee level get their way and they put Nancy Dahlstrom in there, they get Nancy Dahlstrom as the candidate, well, good luck with that. That's all I'm saying. Good luck with that. We need to go in there and we need to get our friends and family and relations and spheres of influence out there to vote in the primary. And then we need to encourage the candidates that are in those races. And quite honestly, even the ones where the primary doesn't matter, we should still be looking at those, because there's tons of races out there who've got 4 candidates. So all 4 of them are going to go through. And there are 3 Republicans and a Democrat, 3 Republicans and an independent. It's just, I mean, at what point do we just say, we got to stop shooting ourselves in the face over this? That's enough said. That's enough said on that. I got to go. Especially the independents, or the ones who are now full Republicans, which we're going to talk about next. I got more to say on that too. Back with more of the Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
It's the Michael Dukes Show. Why not take a quick break? Be right back. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. Hello. Good morning. How are you guys this morning? I don't know. I'm in a mood, man. I have no idea what's going on. I am in a total mood, and it is what it is. Okay. Good morning. Let me go all the way back to the beginning. Get Willie Keppel on if he isn't running. Willie Keppel is running, and he has an invite. He's been on the program a couple times already as far as random call-ins, but he does have an invite out to him to talk about the show. So Willie Keppel is running for the office. He's the official. He's a Veterans Party candidate, and it's there. There you go. So hello. Good morning. Be ungovernable. Yes. We, the United States of America, will not let that happen, says Miguel, talking about Kamala Harris being elected. Well, I'm hoping so. Row, agitated Dukes on the horizon. I'm not like in full rant mode, but I'm just, the more I read some of this stuff, I'm just get a little irritated. All right. Be good to have coffee, says Greg, but just didn't want to get up. Oh, come on, lazy bones. You can do it. Although I'm with you sometimes, brother. It'd be easier just to lay in bed a little bit. That's what I would be. Okay. Remember, yes on 2 in November for ranked choice voting. That is that's vote yes on 2 is the repeal. So if you want to repeal it, you got to vote yes to repeal. I heard that Miss Kamala Harris is not really black. That was, I saw the comment, I read the comment or whatever. I heard the clip and I just thought, this is a dumb thing to stir up. Now, is she trying to utilize her her race in a way, or is she? I mean, because I think the answer is to some degree yes, but I mean, yeah, okay, so she's a quarter black, right? One of her parents is half black, and her mom is Indian. Or I guess her dad is half black, and her mom is Indian. Whatever it is, she's a portional. I mean, she's part of it. So it's a yes, but is it? Why are we bringing it up? Why does it matter? Why do we really care? I don't. To me, it doesn't even. I mean, she could be purple for all I care. I still hate her politics, so I wouldn't vote for her anyway. Random. Ooh, Semper Fi. Got to do it every time. Semper Fi. Hoorah! I think you're mispronouncing repressive. If you don't join the party, we have a re-education center for you to attend, says Jeffrey. Cindy said, I heard in an interview that she said she would not bow out. Again, she has not responded to my emails to come on the program, neither her nor her candidate or whoever's monitoring her official email. I had heard that she said during the state deal that the state convention, that if she did lose the primary, that she would come back and talk with the party and Nick and the party president, and they'd have a discussion. Now, what does that mean? Nothing. We'll come back and have a discussion. And then you'll continue on, or that I have not heard her say that she will not bow out. I heard it was a cop out. It was like, well, if that happens, we'll get back and we'll talk about it. Where Nick is like, if I lose the primary, I lose. I'll step out. She just, she is a non. I mean, what's Brian say all the time? She's an NPC. She's a non-player character. She is the most inoffensive, non kind of, she's just there. She's just inoffensively taking up space. She's there because the party told her to be there, because the business as usual crowd told her to be there. I was reading Rob's newsletter and came across your picture with him. His news was about wood stoves in the Fairbanks North Pole area. People need to know what the feds are doing. I guess I should go back and read Rob's newsletter. I guess. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show.
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
Okay. Sorry. I've been answering questions in the taking comments in the chat room and everything else. It's a hot mess out there, baby. A hot mess. People saying I was not as agitated as I said I was, kind of thing. Well, I'm just, I'm not rant worthy agitated. I'm just kind of irritated by the whole thing in general. Somebody made a comment about the whole Kamala Harris thing, and the question of her race or ethnicity or color or whatever that Trump was stupid enough to jump into. And it was stupid. Why would you, whether she is a quarter black or half black or an eighth black or Indian or half Indian or whatever it is, she is the ethnicity that she is. Why does that have to become an issue in this race? I just don't understand. Why does it have to be, even if she has tried to use it to her advantage politically, whether she has or not, that was some of the assertions that some of the talking heads were saying, whether she has or not. I mean, why does it even matter? And this happens in so many different things across the country. This is just one example of it. And this is the thing that makes my head explode, is that why are we talking about things that really don't matter? To me, that's just, Again, I couldn't care if she was purple, pink, white, yellow, black, whatever. I disagree with her politics 150%. So I would never vote for her, regardless of if she was my genetic twin. I would not vote for her because I disagree with her. It's just how it's going on. We're just so stupid. And Trump fell for the bait. All right. Let's see. What else? Oh, what were we talking about? I was talking about candidates who pretend to be something they're not. We all know that the new tactic, it's not really even new because it's been going on for the last 8, 9, 10 years now in this state. But the new tactic is to label yourself as an independent. I'm not a Democrat. I am an independent. I am an independent thinker, and I do not kumbaya, nor drink the Kool-Aid, and no, I will not give you a Coke and teach you to sing in perfect harmony, because I am an independent now. Now, we all know that that's just, it's such a load of codswallop. That is so much pooshaw. I mean, it's just like you can smell it from here, right? Because we've seen it time and time again, the Bryce Edgmans of the world, right? Jumping in on this, the Elise Galvins of the world, who, by any strange stretch of the, and we see it in races time and time and time again. I mean, there's been a whole slew of candidates now who claim to be independent, yet are utilizing, if you look at their campaign expenditures, they're utilizing all the machinery of the Democratic Party. They're buying the mailing list from the Democrats. They're using the consultants that the Democrats are using. I mean, just all they did was change. It's like remember well, for those of you who enjoy history and enjoy, the history and naval warfare and things like that, you remember the phrase, the flag of convenience? Anybody familiar with that phrase, the flag of convenience? This was used by privateers and pirates. It was the idea that wherever they were sailing around the around the seas, and as they did, sometimes they just changed their flag. Because why? Well, because it was safer to be flying the flag of a specific country or a specific nation or navy or whatever. And that way they could slip by because, it wasn't like they were passing within feet of each other. Usually it was a half mile away. So if I've got a big, juicy flag that happens to be the flag of my enemy and I'm sailing in enemy territory, then that's just a flag of convenience, right? It just lets me slip on by and get away with whatever I want to get away with because you think I'm one of you. This is the whole thing about this whole independent thing. Okay, but see, now we've taken it to the next level. So we're all familiar with that. We all know. I mean, I don't think is anybody out there being fooled? Does anybody out there actually believe that somebody who's been a Democrat for 20 years suddenly found Jesus and came back and said, well, you know what? I'm an independent more than a Democrat because I just don't really, I believe in most of that stuff, but I feel like I'm more independent. And so I'm going to be, and so nobody's really buying that, right? Nobody's buying the independent, why? Nobody's really buying that. But now we've got the same thing. Yeah, in fact, Chris, thank you so much. Chris in the chat room said they did the same thing in the movie The Dirty Dozen by switching armbands. I've probably seen that movie 100 times. It was one of my favorite movies growing up. And you're right. Remember when they switched the armbands in the Dirty Dozen? Yeah, okay. Anyway, sorry. You squirrel. So nobody's buying the whole I'm a Democrat, now I'm an independent thing. But now they've gone to a whole new level. Uh, now they're going a whole new level. There's an article in Must Read Alaska. Suzanne Downing writes, which Fairbanks House candidate says white men need to sit down and shut up? Joy Beth Cottle, who's running for State House, changed her registration to Republican immediately before filing against Republican House Rep Frank Tomaszewski of Fairbanks. And now she's gone on the attack. But I'm a Republican. Now I can do. She went on Facebook, on her official Facebook page, Joy Beth Cottle for State House, and she blistered Tomaszewski and two other sitting Republicans because they attended a symposium in Washington, D.C. that focuses on conservative, Christian-based leadership. Now, she blasts both of these, even though it was Jamie Allard and Stanley Wright. Now, they're both minorities. I guess if we want to get into the color thing again, they're both minorities. But she goes out and continues on to this whole thing where she jumps in and says, I'm going to, that I'm going to fight for your right. I have and will continue to support our constitutional right to privacy and not align with the extremist agenda featured in Project 2025. Because this whole Project 2025 fascination is just mind-blowing. But regardless, she goes on the attack overall because they're all extremists, right? And then Cottle, she's a firefighter, right? She's a battalion chief at the Fairbanks Fire Department. Then Suzanne Downing had a text message that was captured, and the text message was that she texted somebody in Fairbanks a message that where she was railing about legislators attending faith-based conferences and called them extremists and unconstitutional. She was not worried about the constitutional rights of one subset because she talking about the trainings, she says white men have no business speaking in those trainings. They need to sit there with tape on their mouths. Sit there and shut up. White men. I don't know how many of you saw some of these snippets of these Karens for Kamala and some of these, 100,000 dudes for, what was it? What was the one that was dudes for the dark lady or something? I can't remember. Anyway, these 100,000 people Zoom calls, right? Where they're all talking about how it was Karens for Kamala, but it was really white ladies forum or something. It's all about race. Why are we segregating ourselves? Didn't we fight to overcome that? Aren't we all equal? Aren't we all, I don't understand. I have never, ever in my life sought to segregate myself from somebody else based on the color of their skin. And yet these people who are supposed to be the most tolerant and they're blatantly doing it all the time. White men have no business speaking. Why? Because I'm a man? Because I'm white? Because I'm saying something I don't agree with you on? And then you get 150,000 Karens on a call who talk about how all these white ladies coming together is important for the black lady. Why does the race even? My head is going to explode, man. Why does it even matter what color you are? I don't understand. How does that make your experience any less appropriate than somebody else's experience in life? They're all different. We all come from different perspectives. What does it matter? Isn't that what the whole point was? Isn't that why MLK marched down the street? So that it wouldn't matter what the color of it was just what we did and the content of our character was. Isn't that important? But here's a Fairbanks candidate who's become a Republican, now blasting out her Republican colleagues, is attending a training session to take your freedom and your bodily autonomy, because apparently it's a Christian-based leadership that was probably pro-life, I would imagine. I mean, I'm pro-life. I'm not a Republican, but I am pro-life. I mean, does Joy Beth, did she change to a Republican thinking that this was going to be the best thing for her? I just don't even understand. White men have no business. They need to sit there with their tape on their mouths. You need to be seen and not heard. What the actual hell is going on up there? I mean, who? Okay. Anyway, so now it's shifted from now we're independents to now we're actually registering as Republicans and then running on the Democratic talking points. Is Fairbanks that confused that somebody, just because they have an elephant next to their name, you're going to vote for their, even though this is the kind of this? I mean, this sounds like something that Elise Galvin would say. How is Joy Beth? I mean, why did you even bother to register as a Republican? It's because you're just hoping to fool a few people? I don't understand. Obviously, not running, not the same values as what I would assume somebody in the Republican Party would say. But I mean, just, these white men, they have no business speaking in those trainings. They just need to sit there with tape on their mouths. Okay, fine. Can you imagine if I wrote something like that? These women have no business talking about whatever it is that they're going to talk about. We should just have them sit there with tapes on their mouth. Could you imagine if I texted somebody that and it got leaked to the press? What would happen? These women, I wouldn't even have to say white women or black women. I can just say these women tape their mouths shut. They need to be seen and not heard. Could you imagine? Let's watch. Somebody's going to soundbite that. You hear what he said? Oh, my God. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. I mean, that's right. We are all green, baby. Amphibious green blurs. That's all we are. Let me go back up here. What does he? Independent, says Kevin, is just a Democrat in the Witness Protection Program. That's a classic, Kevin. That is classic. Oh, man. John Henry said, if you're saying Trump is stupid, that sounds stupider. Just call it kettle black, as the saying goes. I think it was a stupid thing to say. I mean, I really do, John Henry. I will stick by that till my dying day. I think he took the bait, man. That's just bait. Why would you engage on something like that? If you wanted somebody to point out the fact that she's using her race as some kind of political lever, let your surrogates, let the talking heads do that. You don't need to take the bait on that. That was just stupid. It really was. I'm sorry if you disagree. Feel free to disagree. Feel free to do whatever. If you say anything, you are racist. Okay. Did you say Coddle? Is she one of the Coddles from down here? I don't know if she's related to the whole Burt Coddle clan, but I don't know. Gordon says, I know Joy Beth. She's definitely not a Republican. I know Republicans, and ma'am, you are not a Republican. White dudes for Harris. That's what it was. It was dudes for, yeah. Anyway, white dudes for Harris. And I'm like, so we are intentionally segregating ourselves by skin color now. That's the important part. Just what? Okay. All right. Ryan says, Joy came to my house the other day. 'Twas an awkward exchange. I wanted what happened there? Tell me more. Here's the phone number. Call me right now. Tell me what's going on here. I want to know. What did she say? I mean, how do you register as a Republican and then screed on like that? I don't even understand it. It was all just a ploy to get radio talk show hosts wound up. Possibly. I'm going through. I'm Cherokee. I'm Irish. Harold's dad, his great granddaddy, was the last chief of King Island. Well, that's kind of cool. Was she a bittered, childless Catwoman? Yeah, I mean, isn't that? It's so kind of odd. Some of the hot takes that are coming out of people like J.D. Vance and some of these other people, and I'm like, why would you take that shot, dude? I don't understand. I mean, what? It's weird. It's weird. Yeah. White men need to sit down until they need something done, like their car fixed, house or yard work, or something built, or whatever. Exactly. Apparently, Joy Beth Cottle is running just for defined benefits. That's what she's running. Her whole record is. We can't even, Yeah, Ryan says, now we have you on record. We just need to isolate that clip where I basically said, could you imagine if I said that women should just sit down and shut up with tape over their mouths? That would be, yeah. I mean, oh. They would eat me alive, said Chris, if I did something like that. If there was some text exchange or somebody snapshotted me saying that, it would be headline news. I mean, nobody knows who I am, right? I mean, I have a radio show and I've got a statewide, but most of the people in the state have no idea who I am. Oh, they would know who I was in the future if Matt Buxton or Jeff Landfield or somebody else got a hold of a text exchange like that. Maybe we should make a check text exchange like that and then send it out to them, sneak it to them. I mean, then the whole state would know. The whole state would know. I guess, yeah. And I agree with what Harold's saying here. I know that's shocking for some of you, but is this nation going full race card for the elections? What about talent? What about ability? What about character? What about their philosophy? Again, I don't care what color you are, race, creed, whatever, ethnicity, that none of that matters. What is your philosophy? Do I agree with it or do I disagree with it? That's all that matters to me. The content of your character and what you believe. Those are the important things. Stupid. Anyway, we got to go. The Michael Duke Show. Common Sense Radio. Like, share, subscribe. Let's do this thing now. Here we go.
The Michael Duke Show. Seriously humorous with a pinch of intellect. Sorry. That is humorous. Here's Michael Dukes.
So, oh my gosh. Sorry, there's just so much stuff going on in the chat room and everything else. And I'm just over here scratching my head, wondering how did we get to this kind of crazy part of the day. All right. Again, phone lines are open. I don't know why I'm doing all the talking this morning because you guys are definitely welcome to call in. 319-527-3864. 319-527-3864. Give us a call right now. Excuse me while I take a drink. You think I would have had time in the 5 minutes of commercial break that I would have been able to take a drink, but no, because I was talking to the chat room the whole time. It's Miguel Ramirez, who's running for Fairbanks North Star Borough Assembly, says in the chat room, when I spoke at the Republican luncheon here in Fairbanks, Joy Beth Cottle, who we're talking about, walked out immediately when I said, I don't fake who I am. What you see is what you get, and I will not change, and I will stand by my principles. He said she immediately left. Ooh, she's feeling a little attacked. Feeling a little attacked. Oh man. All right, what I just don't even know what else to say at this point. But I'm watching this kind of stuff and I'm just like, this is madness. This whole thing, all this election stuff, it is just total madness. And I guess I'm here for it. Just give me the popcorn and I will sit back and watch at this point. It's really crazy. All right. I've got one line on hold. Looks like Jim is calling in. Been a hot minute since I talked to Jim up in Fairbanks. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Mike. Jim home.
Hey, Jim. What's happening,
Hey.
my friend?
How are you today? Are you crazy enough as we are in?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm crazy enough, Jim, but sometimes I just kind of look at the world and go, is the world mad or am I? I mean, I just kind of, I guess if I ask myself, it means that I'm not. But sometimes I wonder, how did we get to this kind of crazy place?
I don't know. I listened a little bit to Nancy Dahlstrom yesterday. I couldn't listen to the whole show, but I served in the house with her, and she was a nice lady, very nice lady. But I wonder, have we ever purged the voter rolls here? I mean, wouldn't that be her charge?
Wouldn't that be? Here's the thing. Somebody said it earlier in the chat room, Jim. Though, has she cleaned up the voting rolls? Has she done anything about election integrity?
Oh, well,
has she done any of this stuff? Oh, no. She's protected the seal. That's about what she's done as lieutenant governor. She's protected the seal. Mission accomplished. I mean, you worked with her in the legislature.
A little bit like Borders are, huh?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, she's a nice lady, but did she really? Can we name one accomplishment that Nancy Dahlstrom? I mean, can we name one accomplishment that she has in her entire political career achieved? I can't think of one, Jim.
Yeah, well, I don't pay attention to most of them anymore. It's after 20 years, of being gone, or 20 years ago I was there, I guess. You get old enough and you say, well, you find how inept you really are and how little you can do.
Yeah,
you can't push the green button. You can't do much.
Yeah. That's why, I mean, when I was on the Jim, you just summated my entire tenure on the assembly in Fairbanks, is that I felt when it was all said and done, I was like, I couldn't press the button no hard enough. I just, there was just nothing else to do. I've done my part. Now it's time to move on and move on to other things. But yeah, it's frustrating.
It truly is. And the thing about Trump, and MLK, I thought that was right on, spot on. I don't blame him. There's not anything that can get traction any more than getting somebody's emotions wrapped up in the elections, and maybe that's what he's trying to do.
And maybe it is, if you can't, what's the old phrase, Jim? If you can't motivate, you irritate or agitate. I mean, it's one of the two, right? You get him up there.
Yeah. He does a little of that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you have a wonderful day. I just wondered if you heard anything about purging the rolls and making sure the rolls were correct.
Yeah,
but,
no,
apparently
haven't heard a thing, my friend. I don't think anything like that. We still haven't seen the report, the independent report that Chewbacca had talked about that Mike Shower's been trying to get for 3 years. We still haven't seen that report. She's in charge of that too. So
you haven't?
No, I mean, the one that's 96 pages where most of the pages are redacted, even though it's a public report on the election system in the state of Alaska. Yeah, no, I haven't seen that one either. So yeah, I got it.
A little bit like Washington, D.C.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot like Washington, D.C. Yeah, exactly, Jim. All right. Well, good to talk with you.
FBI, I don't know. All right, be good.
Good to talk with you, my friend. Thank you so much.
Yeah, good talk to you.
That's right. Jim Holm calling in from Fairbanks, former legislator, family friend, been around for a few days. Just a all around good guy, Jim Holm. Okay. What else was I going to talk about? I was going to talk about this body cam footage on the shooting in Anchorage. simply because I have questions, and maybe I'll just save this for tomorrow, because although it's not really technically, I mean, it's a firearm story, obviously, because the police shot the guy because he had a gun. But I mean, I have questions. I have questions about this. And so maybe this is not a quick, I mean, this is not a quick story to get into. The city of Anchorage has been, it took them 3-4 years to implement their body cam stuff after it was voted in and the money appropriated. And it took them like 4 years to get it all done. And then now this is really the first big case that is utilizing that body cam footage. And instead of the raw body cam footage, they edited it down and actually put a narration on it. So it's like, it's a footage that shows the narrative of what the police say happened, but they're not showing you all the raw footage. They're not. I have some questions here. In fact, I have a lot of questions about that. I am a huge fan of transparency and body cam footage from every angle. And when they release stuff like this, they should release every reel of every bite of information from every camera in the vicinity all at once, so it can all be looked at from every various angle that's out there. Not showing you some edited down version that is then narrated by the police with their timeline or their story of how things went down. People should be able to make their choice on that. I have a lot of questions about this whole thing. I'll just say that for nothing. Big question. Lots of questions. But that's a whole nother show, apparently. That is a whole nother show for that one. Jungle Primary, we got that one. Mary Beth Cottle. We could talk about the Clutna Bridge, but we can't now because we're out of time. We're out of time. We'll continue here in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Thank you for coming in and joining us. Hour 2 is dead ahead. David Nelson will be joining us. We're going to be talking about his run for the State House, trying to get back in. We'll be back. Hour 2 is dead ahead on your home for common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Back with more. Jeannie, who's spent a lot of years in law enforcement, says edited video is not admissible as evidence in court. Yeah, I know that's part of the problem, right? You can't just edit the stuff down and then place a narrative over the top of it. I mean, Chris says one of the cameras was covered up by a body armor plate. I mean, there was only apparently the edited video. I've closed the window now, but I think it said it was only three angles. There were 8 officers there, but only 3 angles are covered in the edited video. What's going on there, right? Ryan says maybe a topic of conversation for tomorrow should be the Turkish shooter with his hand in his pocket that won silver at the Olympics. He had his hand in his pocket while he was shooting. Is that what you'll have to describe me? You have to describe that to me, Ryan. I don't know exactly what's going on. Do you realize, Mike says, you're a fan of body cams. Do you realize that when a peace officer visits your homes for whatever, the body cam is videoing the inside of your home? If he gets inside the home, yeah. What reason would I have to have a police officer inside my home? Yeah, but I'm still a fan. Sorry, still a fan, Frank. Still a fan of body cams in that regard. I mean, they would have to be inside my home, and I don't even know why I would worry about that because I don't have anything really in that regard to hide. But even if I did have something to hide, they would have to be inside my home, and I have failed miserably if for some reason police are inside my home. I will not allow police officers in my home unless, they're there investigating a crime against me. My doormat says come back with a warrant. My doormat does not say welcome. There's also a sign next to my door that my friend Greg gave me, Greg here in the chat room, that said dynamic entry will be met with lethal force. Just knock on the door and tell us you're here. Don't try and kick it in. You'll get shot, essentially. During the shooting, you need to see the photo, says Ryan. All right. I'll check it out. All right. Officer videos should not be released until the case is complete to keep the defendant from being tried by the court of public opinion. Yes, I mean, I would agree with that. But in this case, the guy's dead. So let's get all the angles we can. I mean, ooh, mushroom bisque. That sounds delicious. I love me a mushroom bisque. All right. David Nelson is in the green room here. I suppose we'll jump over there, test his audio and his video. Whoops, he just flicked away there. He was there and now he's gone. Let's pull him in here and see what the haps is going on. Hello, David. Are you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Yeah.
I can hear you, but your camera went away. All I see is a picture now. You want to restart your camera? Can't up.
How's that work?
Hold on. There you go. Hey, look at that. Camera's back in. It's all good. All right, David. How's things going, man? What's happening?
It's going good. I'm getting a little bit of a signal delay, so I might have to stop my camera.
Okay, if you need to stop your camera, you can, and I'll I don't know why you'd be getting a delay, but we'll see how it is. Go ahead and try it right there. Are you hearing me now?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you coming in a little broken up.
Okay. Well, maybe your internet is not great. I don't know what's going on, but I have never had a problem. The delay, maybe try and reconnect to the link one more time just to see if that fixes it, because I have never had a delay that long in my life since we've been using this system. So disconnect and reconnect, David, and we'll try this again, okay? I'm going to put, I don't know what the heck's going on there. I have never seen a delay of, I mean, that's a good 5 seconds asking him a question and waiting for 5 seconds to hear what's going on. We may have to do this the old fashioned way via telephone. I mean, it's just, wow. He's on dial up, or maybe he too is on GCI. Maybe that's part of the problem. I'd like to go back to this mushroom bisque thing. I mean, that just, oof, man. I love me a good mushroom bisque. Oof. Is it a hack? I don't know if it's a hack, 5 seconds. Nobody has that kind of time, says Ryan. No, I mean, seriously. All right. David Nelson's calling in here. Let's see. Can you hear me, David?
I can hear you fine now.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Your internet apparently was not the greatest. So I'll put you back on hold here. I'm going to be right back to you. We're about to rejoin the radio, so this is the chance. Here we go. He joined. Harold literally joined a Facebook group called Soup Recipes. That just says it all, doesn't it? That just says it all.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at MichaelDukesShow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Welcome to the program. Thank you for coming on board this morning. We have got a lot of stuff to cover here in hour two. Hour one was just kind of a rambling, I don't know. It was a good conversation. It was a good talk, good chat. And now we are continuing on this morning. Hour two is Candidates for All. Joining us this hour is David Nelson, former representative and now running for election in his new redistricted House seat, which is House District 18, currently held by Cliff Grow. And we're going to welcome David Nelson on the program right now to talk about all of this stuff. Good morning, David. How are you?
Doing good. How about yourself? And glad to be on here talking to Alaska and all the world, like you said.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, no, doing good, loving life. Doing our thing here. Just trying to make sure that we let everybody know, inform them as to what all the candidates are standing for and doing. And so we're getting a good start here. David, let's, I guess we'll just get started right off the bat here. Tell us a little bit about, for folks who don't know who you are. You've been in the legislature already once, but for folks who don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who you are, where you came from, and what you hope to accomplish here. Give us a quick rundown.
Yeah, sure. So for those who don't know me and that are listening, my name is David Nelson. I'm currently running as the Republican candidate for House District 18 against the current incumbent. As you said, I previously served in the Alaska State Legislature, representing District 15 from 2021 to 2023. It was a great endeavor and got a lot of things done. Before that, I graduated from University of Alaska Anchorage with a degree in political science, as well as commissioned as a CBRN officer, which is chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear officer, into the Alaska Army National Guard. I had worked for Senator Murkowski for a couple of years, and then I moved to working on base at the Missile Defense Agency as a defense contractor for a couple of years. Before I got the bug, and my girlfriend was chased by a homeless individual and didn't see much actually coming and getting fixed in the way of institutional change to make sure that doesn't happen again. So I put my name in the hat and beat a primaried an incumbent, and then went on to win the general election and get into the Alaska State House. And I served 2 years out there. I got a couple bills passed and resolutions passed, making sure workforce development for military spouses and their dependents. I unfortunately lost the election to a close race to the current incumbent, a Democrat. So now I'm running again, and my whole play of what I'm telling people when I go door to door and talking with them on the phone, I really harp down onto saying, are you ready to pay a new state income tax and all the other taxes that follows? Because I'm not. I'm running to give my neighbors a responsible, conservative alternative to our current incumbent. He's a member of the liberal left progressive caucus, and it's pushing Alaska down a track I don't agree with.
Right. Well, and I guess we'll talk about this. I mean, your race was kind of interesting. I'd like to revisit that just for a minute because, of course, your race was against the incumbent Gabrielle Ledoux, who, I mean, was just announced this week that her trial has been pushed off yet again. Even with all the futzing that was going on, she tried to cheat the elections, allegedly, and you beat her anyway, and ended up going to Juneau and did some good work down there. So that's kind of an interesting footnote in that whole discussion. But you have stood for smaller, more limited government. I know that's been part of your whole campaign push. I know that you've pushed for a bigger, for a statutory dividend and some other things. But we've got to talk about some of the things that came up in this last session, because I'm assuming that these are all going to continue to come up in the next session. So I think we're going to get started there. Okay.
Yeah, that's perfect. Let's do it.
Okay. So first and foremost, let's talk about education. Your district is got, it's got some of the troubled educational outcomes. The whole kind of eastern side of Anchorage has got some challenges with some of the scholastic achievement and attendance and other things. But all we hear from everybody, and all we heard this last year, was how if we just funded education more, this would fix it. This would fix all the problems. That it's just an issue of money that is causing this. And of course, the newspapers got up there and basically said, oh, well, it's because we flat funded education. We haven't been giving what we need to do, even though we've increased 35% in the last 18 years, we're flat funding it. And nobody really seemed to question it. And so then it got down to Juneau and they increased it a bit, but they want to take it all the way up to $1,400, David. Are we spending too much in education, not enough on education? Are we just right? Are we somewhere? What needs to happen in your mind in the educational arena?
Well, I take a look at it and see a couple different things. So when I was in the legislature, the Senate had a bipartisan bill with the Alaska READS Act. And what that came with was a BSA increase. It was a small BSA increase, but it was paired with accountability. And I think that's really what we need to be harping in on when it comes to education and education funding. Right now in the state of Alaska, we have more school districts than we do state representatives. And I think that's just ridiculous, because what that pairs with is paying salaries of superintendents and paying salaries of all these people that might be superfluous. So let's look at, say, okay, accountability wise, where's this money actually going to? Are we getting the most bang for our buck? And if we increase, the BSA to the amount that, some of these left-leaning individuals want to go to, is that money just going to go to pockets of people, or is it going to go actually to the students? And so that's the number one thing that I want to harp on and say, hey, we can look at education funding, but we want to make sure at the end of the day, our students are getting the money, because you look at our test scores across nationwide, and if we just keep throwing money at the problem, it's not going to solve it.
Right. And so, I mean, I know that there used to be a statute that said the most of that money needed to go into the classroom, and now it's not going to the classroom. So what's your solution to that? I mean, is there an accountability measure? Should we be looking for efficiency? Should we be looking at overhead? What are the things that we should be focusing on in trying to make this better?
Well, I think you say, we leave everything on the table and we look at it and say, hey, number one thing is we have to look for efficiency. So reducing the number of school districts that we have in the state of Alaska. And then we look at, okay, what accountability wise we can do hand in hand with everything else that we're working on.
What does that mean? Expand on that. What do you mean by that? I mean, everything else hand in glove. Yes, consolidating school districts would help. I mean, is there more to it than that? I mean, what are some of the other ideas you're coming up with?
Well, that's just one section of it. Part of the accountability aspect, part of the Alaska Reads Act, is saying, hey, any dollar that goes to a school, make sure it doesn't go into or a large section of it doesn't go to just administrative overhead. So that's what I was kind of referring to when I said that.
Right. Well, I mean, that's the thing. This money, because the way that the argument was made in the public, the way that the news media and a lot of the politicians and a lot of the elected or the education industry people were saying was, this is for the children. This will be for the kids. And don't you want the kids to learn? But most people would be shocked to learn that usually it's 50% or less of the money actually makes it into the classroom, that most of it's being consumed by the overhead of more administrators, more, janitorial guidance counselors, all the extra ancillary stuff that doesn't and nothing to do with teaching reading and writing and arithmetic in the classrooms. Most people would be shocked by that. But that's the story that was coming out, and that's just one aspect of this. I mean, how much is enough, I guess, is the question at that.
Yeah, no, and you hit the nail right on the head. I'm when I was in the legislature, I was the youngest legislator, and I believe, I've been told I'm the third or fourth youngest in state history, so I'll take that on the chin with me. It's especially surprising to go door to door talking to people, and they're surprised at how young I am. And, I can see, even though I'm only a decade or so away from high school, I can still see and talk to those kids in high school or coming out of high school. I talk to them when I'm out door knocking and talking with them while I was in the legislature. A lot of them are disappointed with the state. We have a massive brain drain problem, and just throwing money at the problem is not going to solve it. We have to have this idea that, if we're going to keep the kids here, the best and brightest, money needs to actually go to them and not, like you said, custodial or administrative costs, that overhead.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would agree with that. And the question is, do we need to re-examine the formula? Do we need to open up the formula and re-examine it and look at the way that it's factored? Do we need to just consolidate the school districts and bringing it down from 53 or 54 down to 25? I mean, would that help? I mean, eliminating all that duplication of effort? Should we be doing the same thing for the university? Instead of having 3 separate campuses with 3 separate administrations, with 3 separate chancellors, with 3 separate, everything, it's all threes, and then having one overarching leader. Shouldn't we just consolidate it all down to just one? Doesn't that seem to make more sense?
Well, you don't want to have a giant Department of Education, essentially. You want to have an idea that, with how large the state of Alaska is, the university is going to have different needs than what a school in Anchorage or a school out in Unalaska is going to want or need or work on. Some of the things that, I saw that was really beneficial when I was in the legislature was over here on the east side at some of the Title IX schools, Campfire Alaska, which is a nonprofit, during the COVID-19 crisis, they had students still coming in, not to the school, but Campfire Alaska had it set up where, hey, these kids that parents have to go off to work, they can come into a little cubicle and be minded while they have an internet connection and being able to work on their studies efficiently and effectively. And so there's quite a few different options going on.
Well, I mean, again, I'm not saying, first and foremost, we know, for example, Hawaii has one school district for the entire state. all 8 or 9 islands, all the kids and everything else. So it can be done. I'm not advocating for a single school district. I was just saying, what if we just cut the number of school districts in half? And secondly, the University of Alaska, again, consolidating it down to one, I don't understand how that would be problematic to have, it all consolidate, because it's all one university in the long run, right? And it's all one. There may be different needs for different areas of that, but that should be understandable. I don't understand why there would be any kind of hesitation to kind of create efficiencies, because that's the problem. Because the next question for you, David, and we're coming up on the break here, but the next question is, how do we pay for government? That's the question. And if we can't find efficiencies and consolidations and find other ways to cut the size of it, the next question is, well, how do we pay for it? So that's where I'm going to leave you right there. Hold the line. We're going to be back. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We return with more right after these messages. Don't go anywhere.
Listened to by more staffers in Juneau than any other show, because their bosses told them to. And after what they just heard, oh man, they're going to be pissed.
You're a bad, bad man.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, David Nelson is our guest. If you want to sound off, let's chitty chatty about that. Chitty chatty. If you have questions for David, feel free to give us a rundown here and ask the questions here. I'm going back up to the phone, going back up to the comments here. Harold says for David, improve education. I know, spend your dollars in the classroom. Imagine that, instead of 54 overhead departments. Again, kind of talking about the consolidation, David, that we were talking about. Jeannie says districts need to produce a more competitive homeschool program, keep their kids in the district. Melissa Burnett, who's on the school board in Fairbanks, says we need more common sense people on the school boards to make the right choices. The FNSBSD had a chance to do what was right and chose the union over the children, is the thing here. I'm still going through here. Where is House District 18 located? Chris asks in the chat room. So David, can you give me the basic boundaries of House District 18?
Yeah, so House District 18, it's the northern half of Anchorage, so it encompasses all of Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson, from the Army side, Fort Richardson, to the Air Force side, Elmendorf Air Base. It encompasses Government Hill, and then north of 5th Avenue, downtown Anchorage. And then going over to the east side, it's a little slice on the eastern side of Boundary, a little slice just where I'm out at in Muldoon area.
Right, so you're getting a lot of the northern edge and then part of the Muldoon area out there in east, and that's what we were talking about with some of the schools, because they're the ones there's some of the schools in the Muldoon area that have had some of the most challenging results in what's going on here as well. Let's see. I'm just seeing if people here. Frank says we need people on the school board who believe money is not going to better our children's reading and math. I mean, I don't think that's the. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's the only answer. We need to be asking ourselves a question. I mean, when we look at it, David, and here's a question that I ask a lot of politicians out there, but is it a money problem, or is there something fundamentally broken in the way that we're doing education right now? In your mind, is it just a money problem, or is there something busted in the way we're doing it?
Well, I want to step back real quick, if you mind me. And it's come up quite a few times, like you said in the chat, where people were talking about, signing up for school board races. We need good people out there. One of the big things for District 18 and for anyone is voter participation. It's a big thing that I harp on because it's so important to Alaska and to get people motivated about voting. But also to get the military voting. 2 years ago, with redistricting, J-Bear was formed into one big precinct. It was easily one of the largest precincts in all of the state of Alaska, and possibly the history per population. And so the voting participation rate previously, back in 2018, when it was still split for two precincts, Joint Base Elmendorf Richardson 1 and J-Bear 2, the participation rate was 9.3, and that's not super high, but that was kind of around average of what it was for the past couple of years. But with redistricting, what happened was back in 2022, because they formed it back into one, voting participation rate dropped from 9.3 down to 6.5. And that's a massive problem because, if we're trying to get people on school board or want to get people interested in politics, but you're not making it easy, especially for people that sacrifice a lot in the military.
Hold the line, David. We're about to rejoin the radio, so hold the line. I don't want to. We'll pick this question up on the other side. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show,
Okay.
common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
Public enema number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke Show.
Oh, yeah. You know how it is. You make a plan, you curl your mustache, you're public enemy number one before you know it. All right, David Nelson is our guest candidate for State House District 18. Before we came back from break, David wanted to touch on an issue, which was the fact that Joint Base Elmendorf Richardson is now one district, and he wanted to talk about voter participation because that has been kind of a challenge for the military and the districts in the military bases. So, David, I'll let you recap what you were just saying earlier and give us your thoughts on this, on how do we increase that participation, and I'll give you my thoughts on it as well.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, first off, I wish I could grow a mustache like you. I got to work on that. It's on my bucket list. We'll see if I can compete against you in the future.
Just need to buy a cat, is what my dad used to say. Just get a cat, and he'll lick those whiskers in for you. Go ahead.
Well, no. So what I was talking about, to correct something that you were saying, just the past couple months ago, the Division of Elections did actually resplit the J-Bear precinct into J-Bear 1 and J-Bear 2 again. But what I was talking about was how back in 2018, with J-Bear 1 and J-Bear 2 precincts, the voter participation rate was 9.3%, which isn't a lot, but it's still pretty good on average for what an off presidential year looks like. But with redistricting, when they combined the J-Bear 2 precincts into one, it was one of the largest per population precincts, possibly in the state of Alaska's history. And with one precinct, they only had one polling place out there. So that dropped the voter participation rate from 9.3 to 6.5. And that's a massive, that's horrible. We're making it harder for people that sacrifice so much, sacrifice their time, sacrifice their family, being in the military, and we're making it harder for them to vote. It was something of, if someone was living on the Elmendorf side and they wanted to go vote, they had to drive 30 minutes to go on the Richardson side just to go vote, and then drive 30 minutes back. We were actively going against the easy way to get them to vote and participate. So in your comments, some people are saying that we need to get people on school boards. Well, encouraging military voters is encouraging people in general to get out and vote is something that I really harp on and something I take to heart.
Well, right. I mean, it's important, but we all know, I mean, historically, I mean, I lived in Fairbanks, which has 2 military bases there, right? You know, same kind of thing. Historically, we know that military participation in local elections is fairly low because they're not as engaged in the community as somebody who's actually a resident. I mean, they're residing there, but they're not official. It's not like it's a choice, right? You know what I mean? And so it's not always the participation rate is usually much lower. So if you're getting a 9% participation rate, I feel like that is pretty strong. You're right. We should protect that though. So what's your plan to get to get more voter participation in those areas, to get more voices to be heard?
Well, the division elections did a great thing. They went back to what the previous plans were, which is separating the J-Bear giant precinct into two, J-Bear 1 and J-Bear 2, having a specific polling place on Richardson and on Elmendorf. And the idea that, the military personnel are only up here for a little time, and that may be true, but you talk to any military guy or military soldier or airman that comes up here, a lot of them love it up here. And that's why we have such a massive veteran population up here, is because people will get stationed up here and they'll PCS, they'll go somewhere else. But man, they want to come back to Elmendorf. They want to come back to Greeley. They want to be back in Alaska to enjoy the outdoors that we have, to enjoy what makes Alaska so special.
Well, sure, and I mean, that's great and everything. Again, but I'm not expecting it to go gangbusters simply because a lot of people. Yes, there are a lot of people that want to stay here or end up staying here in the long run. But again, they, I think, feel a lot more transient than most people do. So it's not a big deal. I want to go into the question that I asked before we went to break, which was, how do we pay for all this stuff? You were talking earlier, we were talking about education and you weren't sure, how far down we should consolidate or, what the cost. We're spending $2.4 billion on education for 135,000 kids in the state of Alaska. $2.4 billion on education. And then we've got the Medicaid stuff, which is even more. We're spending $6 billion a year in state money, plus all the Fed money in this state. And they keep taking it out of the permanent fund dividend. I mean, that's the ready pool of money that's available. I know on your website you say you support a full PFD, a statutory PFD, which is about an $800 million difference from what we're getting right now. They're taking about $800 million a year out of the PFD to fund government and leaving us with the leftovers. So the question remains, if you want a full statutory PFD, and if you want to do that, and you say that you are against any form of new revenue, how do we pay for it? That's the question.
Yeah. What I'm going to address is saying we have a spending problem, not a revenue problem. I personally want to put a tough new spending cap in the state constitution. When I was in the legislature, now current Senator Kaufman, or former Representative Kaufman, me and him were on the House Labor and Commerce Committee, and he had a bill and a constitutional amendment for a true spending cap. And he puts it up every year, and I believe it was SB 20 and SJR 4 that really worked with having a strong new functional spending cap into the state constitution and on statute that puts Alaska GDP minus government spending. So it looks at saying, okay, hey, if we're going to encourage private business to really be functional, that kind of controls where our spending cap's going to be. And that's something I've tried to shout from the rooftop, that if we're going to start this conversation, if we need to, control our spending, it's going to start with a strong new fiscal spending cap.
Well, I mean, I think that is the cornerstone of everything. And you're right. I mean, I think the question is, do we have a spending or a revenue problem? Well, for years, we had a spending problem, although they said it was a revenue problem, but it was really a spending problem. But we've gone through that long enough now that we have both a spending and a revenue problem, because we've grown the size and scope of government enough that, I mean, how are we going to cut $800 million? I mean, your spending cap idea is great, and I agree. It's the first step in a fiscal plan. how do we make up the $800 million? How long does it take for us to make up the $800 million if we have a spending cap before we see that money returned back to Alaskans in the form of their full dividend? You see what I'm saying? I mean, it can't just be it can't just be one thing. There's got to be other elements of this.
Of course, yeah. You're not going to solve everything, by pushing one lever. It's going to be pushing multiple levers. And so, with that, I want to say I'm going to push to expand the exploration and production on Alaska's natural resources. We had a great thing during the Trump administration, having America energy independent. But on the other side, that also provided our state with revenue. So we had during my time in the legislature, oil was high. And so we were able to work and give a larger PFD out to people. And with those revenues, we can fund state services, build the permanent fund, and also protect the permanent fund dividend.
But we didn't do $800 million worth, though, did we?
I mean, we gave the largest PFD in state history.
Yeah, well, again, here's the problem, and maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just in a mood today, David, and don't take this personally, but it's like we gave a PFD. The PFD is set in statute. It's not like the legislature should have all the bells and whistles and levers to be able to decide what they're going to give us. That's our money. That's not the legislature's money. They've taken it. They've taken it inappropriately. They've been basically squeezing that money out of the fund right now. What are we down to? 25%? 25% for the citizens and 75% for government? I know you probably looked at the 10-year forecast that the governor's office keeps putting out, and you know what it says starting next year? Deficits every year moving forward. And what do you think is going to happen to the PFD? What do you think is going to happen when the PFD is gone? Because it will be at the current rate of expenditure and the current rate of growth. In 3 years, there will be no PFD. And there seems to be no political will to have a spending cap. There seems to be no political will to have some kind of fiscal plan. So how do we pay for it, David? And how do you get 59 other people to agree with you on your plan of attack?
Well, and that you hit it right on the head. Also, we're saying that going down to Juneau, the number one question that always comes up and takes the air out of the room a lot of the times is, where is the permanent fund dividend going to be at? Now, you have a lot of people on some sides that are wanting to just eliminate the permanent fund altogether, give 0% out to the people, lock it down at $100 billion and make sure no one gets a cent of it. It only goes to government services. But on the flip side, where I'm at over here on East Anchorage, what I represented in District 15 is saying that, hey, a lot of these people, they don't use it to go on a holiday or they don't use it to go repair a car. They look at it and say, hey, okay, I need to go, pay for rent. I pay for my mortgage. I need to help my kids going to school for new items, or just get by through the years. It's one of these things that was addressed by the Fiscal Policy Working Group that was established my first year in the interim between the first and second year. And it's something that we need to look at. But right. I go back to the thing. If we're going to really be serious about this, I think that Senator Kaufman's bill and constitutional amendment on its spending cap is the first step that we need to have. If we're going to start working on this, we need to remove the roller coaster spending that we have, and a spending cap is going to be doing that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree that a spending cap is crucial to making this whole thing work. David Nelson is our guest. We're up against the break, David. Hold the line. We're going to continue the Michael Dukes Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We will continue with more here in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. One final segment ahead with David Nelson from House District 18. Back with more right after these messages.
Running on 100%
Good
pure
song.
beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
All right. We're in the break right now. David Nelson, our guest. Kevin McCabe says this is one of the key seats to take back. If the incumbent is reelected, he will absolutely grow your PFD. He will grow the PFD in the wrong way if the incumbent is reelected. But I see your point there, Kevin. Donna Ardwin says, Michael, this is why you need to elect more actual conservatives like David. I wasn't trying to beat up on David, but I just, again, and maybe it was just a slip of the tongue, but this idea, and a lot of politicians seem to have this, and is this idea that somehow they're giving us something. No, they're taking all. They're all taking it. They're not giving us anything. If you were, allowing us to have what is rightfully ours, and or just giving us a little bit more of it than it usually is, we should. I just don't feel like we should be happy about that, David. Right? I mean, that's the thing. It's just, I just don't feel like we should be happy about the fact that they've deigned to give us the majority of what was ours to begin with.
Well, and I'll go back to what I said at the very beginning. My opponent, that's his whole thing is, a catchy slogan, but man, he is a die hard when it comes to taxes. He's been so insistent that we need to have a sales tax. We need to have an income tax back. There's never been a tax he does not like. And you want to see more of a brain drain or more of younger people leaving the state. I mean, it's hard enough already with inflation, but you want to add more things to it, like a sales tax or an income tax. You're going to chase a lot of people out because of that.
Well, and I would argue, David, that we're already paying a tax. And the tax is the taking of the PFD. It is a tax. And unfortunately, it's a tax that is affecting the lowest 80 percentile of income earners, more than anybody else. And in fact, you get down into the 60 percentile or the 40 percentile income earners, they're the ones that are feeling it, upwards of 10, 12, 15% of their total income. So they're the ones that are really being forced out more than anything else. Shouldn't we at least have a conversation about whether or not there should be some kind of equitability in the taxes? I know the fiscal policy working groups talked about, they talked about revenues in the form of a state sales tax or something else. They talked about the South Dakota tax, et cetera. Shouldn't we at least have the conversation? Because we are being taxed now. Make no mistake about it. Everybody can cry about, we don't want any taxes in this state. They're taxing us every year on that PFD.
Well, I see it more as the fiscal policy working group. They suggested new revenues. There's some people that on there that wanted to push really hard for a sales tax or an income tax. And that's what I stand against. And you're right. The PFD really does help out a lot of more lower income people. You can't go door knocking in District 18 without meeting someone that's like, hey, yeah, the PFD really get to decide how this year goes, because I have a couple kids, because me and my spouse are working so much that little extra bit really helps us. So where I was coming from is saying, hey, let's push to expand exploration and production of Alaska resources, and then say, hey, what can we do elsewhere, like saying instituting gaming or looking at those kind of resources, not instituting a tax that's going to hurt Alaskans.
Again, there's already a tax that's hurting Alaskans. As you said, the spending cap has to go in first, because then anything we do would then offset that and force that money back into the PFD. But the question then becomes, what is the most equitable form of tax? Is the most equitable form of tax taking a portion of the PFD, half the PFD, or would it be better to offset that with out-of-state workers and tourists and everything else through a sales tax or some kind of flat income tax? I mean, we can't even talk about it. That's the thing. People out there in the Republican, this is what pisses me off about the Republican Party. They're like, oh, well, we just can't even talk about it. No, it's a non-starter. We are being taxed already. And that's the thing. They refuse to acknowledge that we're being taxed already. Shouldn't we at least look at the equitability of the tax that's happening right now? That's what I'm saying.
Well, I also say look at the equitability. If you're going to move toward the sales tax, hey, you're going to have people that, yeah, in Anchorage, the prices might increase a bit, but you're going to go out to the villages or some of the off-the-road towns, those prices are going to skyrocket incredibly. And then you're going to get more of a shift of population decline, or people who are moving out of those areas, either to Anchorage or to the big cities, or moving out to the lower 48.
Well, this is why we need to talk about this, David. I mean, this is why we need to have these conversations about the equitability of it. We can't just dismiss it with a single example. But the problem is that people are just refusing to even talk about it. The fiscal policy
and that's what I said. It takes, when the PFG comes up down there, it takes the air out of the room.
All right, hold on. Hold on. I'm just. Okay. David Nelson is our guest, candidate for House District 18. We were just having an argument about taxes and revenues and things like that. Let me rephrase this whole thing, David. It's not fair to you because I came into this whole interview in a bad mood to begin with, and so every little thing is triggering me at this point. But let me just say this: you have acknowledged and referenced the fiscal policy working group plan. You were there when it was put together. You saw the report. You talked to all the players. You are familiar with it. Do you support the whole idea of a fiscal plan as put forward by the fiscal policy working group?
I mean, there are some aspects that I didn't like and some aspects that I did. And that's part of what it is. If we're going to get true changes to it, it's going to piss off everyone a little bit. If we have something that everyone on one side really, really loves and the other side really, really hates it, we're not going to get to the simple math equation of actually getting it passed and instituting it.
Right.
We can have great ideas all we want, have the good idea fairy come out, as we say in the military. But if it doesn't get instituted, if it doesn't actually go anywhere during the session, then that's all it is. It's a good idea. We have to have an area that we work together, and that's part of what the fiscal policy working group was. There are definitely parts I disagree with, but parts that, like I keep talking about, spending cap, where that's the first step.
Right.
It's something that I agree with.
Well, and here's the thing. The Fiscal Policy Working Group was made up of the most diverse group of people. It was bicameral, bipartisan, biphilosophical, right? I mean, it was people who were on the opposite ends of the political spectrum, yet in the end, when they came forward with their recommendation, it was unanimous. So everybody, like you said, was a little bit unhappy. That's what compromise is, right? Everybody leaves slightly unhappy in a compromise. So they all came out and said, okay, they all agreed. Here are the points that need to change. But they also all agreed on unanimously that all of those issues needed to be taken up together, because if you took up one without taking up another, it wouldn't balance out. It would become uneven and it wouldn't work. And so that includes cuts. It includes new revenue measures, potentially taxes. It includes increasing the taxation on the oil industry. It included the spending cap. It included constitutionalizing the PFD. It was all these pieces. And we can't just continually try and pick and choose what we liked out of it, like you said. We need a fiscal plan that's going to work, because what we're doing right now is not working. The Senate president said, our fiscal plan is 25-75. That only works for another 36 months, David. Based on the current projections of revenue and deficits and where we're going, they will consume the rest of the PFD. And then what happens? Then there will be taxes, right? I mean, at that point, if they consume all the PFD and that ready money is gone, then the next thing out of somebody's mouth will be, well, you guys really need to pay your fair share because we haven't been paying taxes. That's going to be the answer. Am I wrong?
Well, and that's the point I'm getting to at the end of the day is, we have a spending problem, and you talked about it too a little bit, where, we had a diverse group for the 32nd legislature working on the fiscal policy. And, to have someone like Senator Hughes agree with Senator Keel, at the same time agreeing to something that Representative McCabe and Representative Schrage have to say, having that unanimous decision, that's where you start at it. But, the legislature since has not brought it up, hasn't moved forward, hasn't really done much with it. And that's something that I'm disappointed about. If we're going to have these conversations, it's great to have the fiscal policy working group done and have the report out, but it's just a report unless you act on it.
Well, that's the thing. You have to act. And Ben Carpenter, God love him, has been trying to carry this torch the whole time since the fiscal policy working group plan came out, and has been taking some slings and arrows from people on the other side, because he's talked about every aspect of it, including new taxes or revenues and everything else. But somebody's got to do it. Are you going to support Carpenter's move? He'll be in the Senate, you'll be in the House. Would you support his maneuvers so that in a bipartisan way or bicameral way, you guys can bring this fiscal policy working group plan forward?
I'm going to support bringing this fiscal policy working group plan forward. I can't be saying yes or no just because I don't know what it's going to look like once it comes out of committee, once it hits on the floor. I mean, anyone can say yes or no on a bill right from the get-go, but it can be twisted, it can be changed, it can be morphed into something that, a lot of people wouldn't support when it finally gets to the tail end of a yay or nay. And so that's what I want to stress with a lot of people is, hey, if we're going to have this conversation, let's have this conversation. Let's work on it. And that's what I want to bring forward. I don't know what the product's going to look like on the end, because that's part of why we are here. Part of what I'm trying to get back into in the legislature is bringing the voice for District 18 that has said repeatedly, hey, we do not want to have a new tax. Hey, we want to have a spending cap. We want to rein in our fiscal spending, and bringing that to a voice that is going to change and look at the fiscal policy working group report.
Well, I mean, yeah, obviously we can't support legislation that hasn't been written, but if the proposal and the plan, the outline is there, and you're saying you support the fiscal policy working group plan, and you would work with legislators to put it in place, right, in total as it is, that's what we're looking for. I'm not asking you to support legislation that hasn't been written, but I'm talking about in broad strokes, you do support this plan.
Yeah, I think it was a good product. Like I said before, there was some stuff that I didn't support wholeheartedly, and some stuff that I did. And we'll see what it comes out to once it hits the legislature. It actually needs to start being moved forward, and that's what I intend to do if I get reelected, or if I get elected back into the Alaska State House of Representatives for District 18.
All right, we're down to the last 5-6 minutes here, so I want to give you a chance to tell us, what are you going to focus on if you're elected? I wave my magic wand and you're back in House District 18. What is your priorities? What are you going to be tackling first before we go anywhere else?
Yeah, I appreciate spending the past hour with you. It's always great. I listen to you, Austin, and it's always fun getting to have these conversations because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. When I go and call people on base or knock on someone's door outside of base, what I always tell them is say, hey, I'm working on a couple key points, and this is what resonates with people when I go and talk to them. I say, hey, we're going to put a tough new spending cap in the state constitution. We're going to protect our permanent fund dividend. We're going to promote military family employment by removing some of those statutory and regulatory restrictions. We're going to push to expand exploration and productions of Alaska's natural resources. And we're going to put every new scheme to impose new taxes to a direct vote of the people.
I mean, I couldn't disagree with that, or couldn't agree with that more. That everything that has to do with revenue should go before the vote of the people. I agree with that, including the taking of the PFD and everything else. That should all go before the vote of the people. I believe that every one of those things should be, including if there's a new statutory formula that's put together based on something like HJR 7 or something, if it gets passed, where there has to be a new statutory formula made. That should all go before a vote of the people, shouldn't it, in that regard?
I mean, that's the point that I'm getting at, is if we're going to be instituting something like a new tax, it has to go to the vote of the people to say yay or nay. At that true democracy of saying, would you like to have a sales tax? Would you like to have an income tax? I think that is where the people will shine the greatest.
All right, we're down to about the last 2 minutes here, so I guess this is the chance for you to give us your elevator pitch. You just bumped into us on the elevator, and you're going to tell us why David Nelson is the candidate for House District 18, why they should vote for you. How do folks find out more about you? How do they get in contact with you? How can they help and support your campaign, et cetera, et cetera? So to the floor, David Nelson, I give you the next 2 minutes.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate it. I'm David Nelson. I'm running for State House out in District 18. I'm running to give a responsible conservative alternative to everyone living on Jay-Bear, Government Hill, Ship Creek, and North Muldoon. Please compare my agenda and legislative record while I was in the legislature to our incumbent. There's an honest, conservative, liberal contrast. If you're agreeing with me, if you want to see a better Alaska, especially for the future, I would love to talk to you. You can either reach me at my website, nelsonforalaska.com. That's NELSONFOR Alaska.com. You can also reach me either by phone or by email at nelsonforalaska@yahoo.com. And that's NELSONFOR Alaska@yahoo.com. Or just by simply texting me or giving me a call at 907-444-1731. I'm happy to talk with anyone and just fill them in and see what's happening. That's part of what we're doing here, and part of what politicians need to be is just open to people and talking with them.
What do you have any events or anything else coming up, David, that folks need to be aware about, or meet and greets or anything like that?
Well, we are planning a couple right now, some joint stuff with other candidates. We just finished up a meet and greet and fundraiser earlier this month, or earlier last month in July. But no, I'm out there knocking on doors, talking to people, or calling with them. So if they haven't seen my face by now or heard my voice, then I must be doing something wrong.
Okay. All right. David Nelson, candidate for Alaska House District 18. Thanks for coming on board. Hold the line for a second. Folks, tomorrow's Firearms Friday. Dr. John Lott joins us, and Willie Waffle. Be kind, love one another, live well. David Boyle asks, what do people say to you when you're knocking on doors? What's their major concern? What's the number one thing that people, when you go knock on a door, what's the biggest issue on their minds?
The biggest issue so far that I have gotten, hands down, would be inflation.
Inflation,
just,
yeah.
Hey, the price of living right now, it's too crazy high. We're either going to have to move out to the valley or move out to the lower 48. I've gotten that quite a few times.
Okay, good. And I want to, I always give politics, if you've listened to the show, you know that after the show or after the hour, I always give the guest at least one final bite at the apple in case there was something I didn't hit on or some other issue that didn't come up or something you want to flesh out a little bit more. So you get your final bite at the apple here, David Nelson.
Well, hey, I appreciate everyone. Campaigns don't run as effectively without extra help. So if you want to contribute, if you want to help out, please go to my website and donate. Please call or text me, and love to chat with you more about helping me door knock or place calls. You know, you could be anywhere in the state and help me, bring people out on base. Just because of federal regulations, I can't go door knocking on military establishments. And my whole thing, especially back from 2020, is I want to keep my nose clean. And I'm glad I can say that I have. You know, I want to ensure that, at the same time that people on base are being encouraged to get out to vote, people on base are working hard to have their voices be heard.
Okay. All right, David. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate you coming on, and good luck. We'll check back in with you probably after the primary here to see what the next stretch of the road looks like. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
All right. Appreciate you coming on board. Thanks for joining us today. All right. David Nelson, our guest candidate for House District 18. All right. All right, folks, that just does it for me. That does it for me. I'm done. I can't take any more for today. That's all I got. That's all I got in me. I started off pretty well. Then I got agitated, and now I'm just like, that none of this makes. Anyway, so don't forget, you can always join us on the Common Sense Corps. If you want to help support the show, there you go. Do it. It's only $3 a month. And you can pay for 6 months and then don't have to do it. Whatever. Just, if you want to support the show, support it. If you don't. There you go. That's all there is to it. So agitated right now. So agitated. All right, my friends. Tomorrow is another day. It's Firearms Friday. And we get to talk to John Lott. That's going to be a good deal. It's going to be exciting. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Be kind. Love one another. Live well. How do I support the show again, says David? You see the white square next to my head? There's the address. That's how you do it. Patreon.com/Michael Dukes Show. How about that? I just put it in the chat room there. You click on there, David, if you want to help out. If you were being facetious, shame on you. All right, folks, that's it. I'm done for today. We will see you tomorrow.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.